I've been blessed to be an executive for a long time. I started at a young age, and I came from a football coach type of background where the best was always brought out of me. And some of the times it wasn't by the nicest people. Welcome back to Office Hours. I'm David Meltzer, and we're here at the Sirius XM studios in the Wynn lobby in Las Vegas. And this next guest is a true entrepreneur. Ray Hespen has been changing lives in the biggest industry career and job opportunity in America. It's something that's been protected by the government since the inception of the Declaration of Independence. That's the landowner. And one of the most important things for the landowner is property management. He's the CEO and co-founder of Property Meld, one of the biggest communities of property managers and maintenance people in the world. No better person to lead that than my friend Ray Hespen. Welcome to Office Hours.
Hey, thank you so much. Super excited to be here and excited to talk about the thing that you had mentioned is that maintenance.
It's interesting because we have a difficult time finding good guests and good hosts.
So
I had to use you to attract all of, we have Tom Bilyeu and Jack Canfield and Jay Abrams coming on, but I had to use the fact that you were going to be here in order to effectuate those guys coming. And I just wanted to thank you humbly for you being here. To that measure, a lot of people may not know who you are and what Property Meld is. So I thought I'd start for those few people of the 7.6 billion people on the internet that may not know who Ray Hespen or David Meltzer is. Give me an idea of why that community grew so fast and what the community represents.
Yeah, so I'm super thrilled to be on this group, and there's somebody on the panel that has had an immense impact on that land ownership and being a landlord. If we think about property ownership and management, a lot of people are living in rentals these days, more and more every day. And there's a lot of people creating a bunch of wealth in that. But as that's happening, making sure that it's managed really well and maintained really well is starting to become really important. And so we started a platform about 10 years ago that really spent time to make an exceptional maintenance experience while keeping costs down for the actual landlord themselves. And so we've grown to over 730,000 rental units on our platform, and we've created an exceptional maintenance experience through that. And so, yeah, we've went from 0 to 1, but there's a lot more left to go.
I love it.
Ray, it was just a delight to meet you, and I'm so thrilled. I'm Sharon Lecter, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the Rich Dad series with Robert Kiyosaki, and loved having a chat with you before the show. But I teach in the books that I write about the fact that successful businesses do one of two things: solve a problem and serve a need. And you grabbed hold of that and created this industry because there's so much need for having good property management. But you didn't stop there because you continue to innovate. So talk about your vision for the future, because as we continue seeing, houses are hard to buy, more renters, the need for your services is only going to grow.
Oh, man. And I'll tell you, obviously amazing panel guests. There's one I was really nervous about, and it was co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And part of it is our industry really spawned up because of that book, and I give a lot of credit to that book. And so it is. It's always like any iterative nature. There's always like a rounding the edges when you're thinking about any problem you're solving. It's like, how do we just make that go away? But I think there's a lot of innovation that says, well, how do we make that exceptional? And so today something breaks. I always tell people, like, we usually find the air conditioner's broken all the same way, right? We sit there and it gets warm. We rub our brow and we go, oh, it's broken. And then we try and call somebody and then they're like, well, that's an emergency call out. And like, that is kind of a weird experience that we've just accepted. And so if we really take back and look in manufacturing, actually, I know Bobby's big into that. There's a lot of things we can just anticipate and predict, and they're different. And so we see a world in the not too distant future that there is a home that can almost feel like it fixes itself, where it identifies its own problems. Data tells the story. It automatically allocates the resources, gets them out, schedules everything, ships the parts, and to where the only person that's involved is a person turning the wrench. And so we see a world where that's probably not too far off.
I love that. Sign me up.
I'm just worried there's going to be no one to turn wrenches.
Gotta
It's
solve
really
for that.
weird world when you're telling your 14-year-old son, maybe you should continue to practice playing video games, or can you get in the bathroom and fix the toilet? Because those two skill sets are going to make more than the doctors, lawyers, and engineers do.
They already are.
Exactly.
They already are.
I think it's no surprise that the world is changing and evolving. But what isn't changing is entrepreneurs. We literally sign up to get punched in the face, right? I can't imagine you went from 1 to 730,000, was that the number?
Yeah.
Without facing some sort of adversity. So what would you tell aspiring entrepreneurs when you get knocked down, Ray? What do you do to get back up?
I'm that guy that probably shouldn't talk to entrepreneurs in this journey. I think you guys are probably all at spots where it's like, no, you should totally do it. I feel like I'm that drunk guy at the bar where it's like, you want to be an entrepreneur, huh? I'm at that point. Yeah, we're still there.
Speaking of which, I went to Carlos Santana last
there's
night.
something in that coffee. And so I think the big thing that, I tell people, I actually hate the advice where people say you need to fail fast. I think it's actually one of the worst pieces of advice because yes, it's correct that you should do that, but almost nobody needs that advice because it's going to be far harder than people think. And just like you have to have a conviction in your thing so much for that you're going to want to quit and then you just keep going and then you're going to want to be, everyone around you is going to think that you need to quit and then you also need to keep going. And then that's when you've got the opportunity to make it. And so the analogy foot from gold, I've got plenty of stories if we had longer of my wife tapping her foot and sitting there going, you've had your fun. You've made no money for 2 years. Isn't it time to hang it up yet? And I'm like, we're that close.
3 feet from gold. You
Um,
know who wrote that book too, right?
oh my goodness.
Did you know that?
I reckon. I
Yeah.
did not.
Should have did your homework before you came.
Like, there's
Well, I feel like an idiot.
There's a subtle hint. I'm like, he actually doesn't know.
Yeah.
Sold in bookstores
I
everywhere.
feel that way all the time, right? I have the "Don't Quit" poem that everybody's read in their life still pegged, and my wife's like, "Can you please put that down? We have this beautiful home, and you have this old piece of paper that goes through the basic 3 feet from gold poem. Don't quit. Just when you think you're not there, you are there."
I love that you pointed out conviction, one of my favorite words. And when you started speaking, you said your why was to change lives. And I think when you're convicted every day to get up and change lives, that makes getting up that much easier. I say easier, but it's really, it's not, it's simple to say, right? But it's easy not to do as well. So I just applaud you for continuing to get up and have that conviction.
I think I've got a disease.
Me
Great
too.
disease to have.
It's called
Speaking of disease,
definite purpose. That's what it is. It's
singular
definite
purpose, definite purpose, intentionality. Those are all what
Burning
it takes.
desire.
They're called Bobby Messmers. That's what I call them. Because this guy does not quit. He's like a bull in a china shop.
Well, you got that right. That you got right. But that's about it. Now, listen. You know what? It's a great story. I mean, Ray. I mean, you're engineer. Right. So I love that. You got a very analytical mind. So which probably helped you in the course of doing business. You probably have a little bit of adversity to not wanting to take risks. Right. So, a little bit of that, but here you are, you created a business, you come out of the manufacturing world and you create a program. So now you go into the internet world. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you make that shift from in your mind, like coming from one scenario to being a tech company, right? At this point, and then knowing about project management and property management, and you're like, where's that come from? Tell everybody. I'd like to know.
Yeah. So I actually think a lot of people should spend a lot more time in manufacturing. One, we need it, but two, a lot of people think that you should graduate out of college and follow the Mark Zuckerberg path or not graduate college, whatever. And
Yeah, you're
just
supposed
like,
to
that's
drop out of Harvard. That's the
yeah.
path.
And then do that.
Get in there
and that means
first.
you're on the pathway
Right,
to
that's my problem.
success.
Right.
But there's an element when I went into manufacturing, and this was after the last housing crash in 08, 09, like I got to be in construction materials, which wasn't a ton of fun. And I still got a job, which I was really thankful for. And I was a kid, like, thankfully I had an internships to get me in the door because I graduated with a 2.9. It was really, like, on paper, I should have been really strong.
Applaud you for that,
4-point or 5-point scale.
Right.
That 2
Matters.
4 point.
Okay,
I
just
think.
checking.
Okay.
Still
not
Like
good.
a
But
million
you still
4.0s.
have the
Right.
degree.
Yeah, no, I just asked him to not put that on there. It's like, but either way, but the whole thing is like, walked out. It was straight adversity my entire professional career, where 2 jobs became 1 job. We had to find a way to do all the things we needed to do with less people, and then I kept getting called up to go to different parts across the country for my company. And they're just like, hey, can you go solve this one next? Can you solve this one next? And I think the biggest thing about that is in manufacturing, you have to learn how to operate under lean margins. And you just have to figure it out. And you have to do it safely, all that sort of stuff. But I actually give a lot of real world experience, a lot of credence to the things that I absolutely needed in being an entrepreneur, that if I didn't have, I don't know if I would have made it, admittedly. I had really tough bosses who pushed me. And again, manufacturing, that's why you're talking about the steel business. I love that stuff, man. It formed me.
You know, Ray, just to finish up, you talked about tough bosses that demand a lot from you. And I've been blessed to be an executive for a long time. I started at a young age, and I came from a football coach type of background where the best was always brought out of me. And some of the times it wasn't by the nicest people. And I was just curious from everyone in here, but for those tough bosses, as they call them, when you look back, somehow they're your favorite. And I used to go, I remember my defensive coordinator in college. I have in my dreams thought of all types of ways of torturing him. I used to call him behind his back the troll. And yet today, I think he is more important in my success than anyone else because he pushed me so hard. How do you balance? You're a younger executive like I was, but how do you balance the new age of hurting people's feelings compared to complimenting them, in my opinion, by caring enough about them to bring the best out of them? And it's a difficult wire act today as an executive to care so much that even with your own children and employees, to bring the best out of them, and they quote unquote the old school way.
Yeah, I think I've got, I consider the loss of not unlocking one exceptional person worse than losing 9 decently good ones that'll just stay the same way. And so I think there's an element there. Anytime somebody comes in, and I think the aspect of the home and how it's changed. And by the way, it was a super side project. I ended up rifling through some old boxes of my stuff that my parents kept, and there was a participation award in there. I was like, damn it happened to us too. But maybe it happens more. And so
it sounds like your college degree was kind of like a participation.
It was close. They were like, get out.
You definitely didn't have a Jewish mom.
But I think the whole thing about that is like, if it's not happening there, it can happen at work if you've got enough support network around, which is why I think being around other people is really important. But the other thing is, I actually think it a bigger thing when I'm coaching the other leaders in the organization is thinking about my boss's back. Like, you could have potentially stopped me from starting this company, and you got some of those people in your own business that haven't been pushed. Like, are you okay with that? And like the whole thing is, you do have to find like a cadence of how much somebody can stomach, but I do have like a mechanism where I try to remind them all those stories of everything that I've been through and what I've been, and that's why I'm doing it. You have to almost repeat it a lot more. So admittedly, if you ask all my direct reports, I'm probably one of the toughest people to work with, but I would also like to think there's very few of them, if none of them, that says I'm not learning a lot right now. And I think they really value that.
Yeah. That's good.
That's beautiful. That's a great leader. Yeah. And I will tell you, one of the biggest interferences that I see in leaders that I coach, it's just blame, shame, and justification. And we have to be annoying as leaders and as parents. You have to be repetitive and honest. And usually if you're repetitive, you're completely annoying. But if you're honest, it comes across as being hurtful or mean. But we all seek the truth, as this episode has continually reminded us, and you remind us how important it is to be and to nurture great leaders. As our mentor sitting next to me, who has been a life changer for both of us, and I'm sure the rest of us here. And it's nice to know, like me, that you have a mission to carry those lessons forward, make them your own, and inspire and empower others to be their best. You certainly are a great leader. Property Meld, a great business and a great community of people who want to help each other and know people that can help each other. Ray Hespen, it's an honor to have you here, and you held your own with the biggest names in entrepreneurship. Thanks for joining us.
You're doing a great thing, Ray. Keep it up.
Well, wonderful.
Thank you.
This is Dave Meltzer. Let's see who's up next on Office Hours.